Good afternoon, beautiful souls. This beautiful Wednesday. For the past couple of days, I tried to post some stories where I really felt to share about a recent experience. And each time, I already created the videos during one of my walks. I had all the content ready. And it was just a matter of posting. And each time when I tried, it didn't work. Videos were not uploading, or it was uploaded, but then it was not in the right order. Something was going wrong. So I decided to delete the stories. And to just also feel in, because often when technology is not working for me, it's a sign from the universe, from my soul, that I am controlling too much and kind of doing too much, wanting to do too much. So that is a clear sign that I need to take a break and go back to my body and go back to my energetic work. Something is stagnating. So I left it for a couple of days, and then this morning I tried again to post it because there were so many quotes that I really felt are so potent to share. There were so many lessons in this experience. And then again, it didn't feel good to share it. And it became very clear to me why it didn't feel aligned and why I shouldn't be sharing these stories in the way that I recorded them, because that version of myself was reacting to the experience instead of responding, or what would even be better, creating from my creative solar channel. So now that I have parked it for a couple of days, I could still clearly feel that I desired, my human desires, to share about this, because again, it's important. I feel it's important. And I started to tune in and feel with my body, okay, if these stories are not aligned, I actually already deleted them from my phone because it was not working, it was not flowing. Even if I used different snippets, it didn't feel good to the body. And the direction that I received was very clear. You need to go live, either like record a podcast or go live. And my podcast channel at the moment is all about reclamation and those codes of self-healing and soul embodiment, and also shared in Dutch. So the right way that feels aligned to my body is to share these codes here with you online in a live. And before we even getting started into this experience and the codex and the codes shared, these are embodiment codes, these are leadership codes, I want you to just come back into this space. I want you to invite to just take a few deep inhales into your body and ground yourself into the space where you are receiving my voice and the frequency, so that you can receive it in your fullest. Whether you're just listening to it during a walk, or whether you're sitting in front of the camera and seeing the visual as well. Taking a few deep inhales, coming back to your body, coming back into this space, letting go anything in your mind, anything in your quantum field that's not serving you in this couple of, let's say, 30 minutes where you are creating spaciousness for you, where you're choosing to receive this in the fullest, in your highest potential as well. And maybe you feel that you want to move your body and shake out your body, shake some energy, like clearing, releasing. Maybe you want to stretch. Just intuitively feel in what your body is needing to come back even more into the space, into the here and into the now. And then I invite you, I welcome you to imagine your little girl in school or at a playground, doesn't matter. Let's stick to the school example. I feel that's a good one. Your little girl is sitting in school and she's receiving all these programs that we are programmed with. How was that experience? How grounded did you feel in your body when you enter that classroom? Did you feel safe? Did you feel heard? Did you feel safe enough to speak up? Or were you just sitting there actually a little bit numbed in your body, overwhelmed with what was happening around you? So many kids, right? The teacher who's standing there teaching you something, whether that's history or English or Dutch, doesn't matter. How were these experiences for you? And I know by now that for many of us, those experiences when we were going to school as these little girls in our innocence, in our playfulness, could feel very overwhelming. Because some days we had all these energies and you were like happy and out there. And then we were being tuned down because we could not speak the truth when we were sitting in that classroom. We had to be silenced. We had to be like there to receive whatever was placed in front of us. And that little girl that didn't feel heard for her emotions. Maybe there was something happening in the emotional body, but you were never really able to express it, right? Now just imagine how it would have felt when you were a little girl and you walked into the classroom and when you're receiving all these programs that we learned in school. I don't want to go into the depths whether that were good programs or bad programs. Let's just not go in there, just the receiving of these codes. That's where I want you to tune in with. How would it have felt if before the class would start, there was just a little breather where you ground back in your body, where there was a space created that felt safe for you and your classmates. Whether that was with shaking or a little bit of dancing, whether that was with singing, whether that was with breath work or meditation, but just for all of you to come back in the body. For the teacher that's standing in front of that classroom to create that space where you can be in your fullest, in your emotions. No matter what these emotions are. How would that have felt? Let me know in the comments. Or if you're watching the replay, let me know in the comments. Share it with us. Would you have felt more confident to then speak up, more safe to show up in your emotions, more alive to speak your voice and to speak your truths? How would that little girl have felt if she, in her younger years, sitting in that classroom, would have learned how to regulate her nervous system into a joyful system? So when you would feel afraid or when you would feel overwhelmed or insecure, that you would know, like, okay, just a few breaths. I'm going to place my hand on my heart. I'm just going to do some tapping. I just want to stretch. For me, I personally feel all our children should be learning this in school. And there's a lot of adults, which I'm very happy for, I'm very grateful for, who are now currently taking that responsibility and accountability to learn to co-weave and co-create with their body, to regulate and self-regulate their nervous system, but also expand their nervous system capacity. But it starts when we are these little girls. So now just imagine we were sitting in this classroom as this 7-year-old girl. Now you are at work. You're walking into a meeting with your manager and your team members, and you're sitting in that room. How safe do you feel in that space? To be fully present in who you are, to be fully present in your voice, to show up speaking your unapologetic truths. How do those spaces feel for you? Again, let me know in the comments. How is that for your body? You're sitting in this team meeting at work. This is the adult version of yourself. Which parts of that little girl is sitting with you on these tables? Which parts of that little girl are surfacing from time to time in those meetings? Because here's a little secret. She's always with you. And I know as an adult, we are absolutely capable to navigate this, but just now imagine what would change if you enter a meeting with your team. And it doesn't even need to be your manager, but some person within your team takes that accountability and responsibility to read the room energetically, emotionally. And then also takes the courage, because it's taking courage, to then step up and say like, okay, guys, I know we're going to sit here for like 30 or 50 minutes or maybe 2 hours, but before we're getting started, let's just come back into this space with all of us here in this room. Because we're going to co-create, we are a team, we are one, we're going to weave something magical. Even when there are difficult topics as well that sometimes are being brought forward in those meetings, let's just ground in. Let's create a safe container at work. How would that feel? To just take a few deep breaths, how we also started this life. To shake out your body if you want, to stretch with your team. Even if it's just a minute. Even if it's a couple of minutes. What difference would that make to you, for your body, for your team managers, for the people who are leading that meeting? How would the energy shift? How would you be able to come together? To come together in unity? With that little girl being carried by that adult version of yourself, able to just play with the energetics and carry it all together, holding it all together as a team. So recently I steered myself in an experience in a team meeting for a project. And this was a safe space. This is a safe space because I'm not playing in corporate grids. I'm not playing in the matrix grids. So this was already super safe. And still, I went into a trauma response. My human went into a trauma response. And what it showed me was the lack in embodied leadership. For the space to be held in corporate environments. For leaders to lead from the body, because if you lead from the heart, it doesn't mean you lead from the body. Someone can lead from the heart, and this just dropped in my field afterwards, and I've been sitting with this for a while now. When you lead from the heart, it doesn't mean you lead from the body. Let that sink in. Because leading from the heart is to me, like leading with love, leading with compassion, creating beauty, art, and higher states of consciousness. But leading from the body is also having the awareness for the emotional body, for the energetic body, for the physical body, for oneself, but also for the team. And not everyone should be and can be like carried out for the team, but there will be always one person, often it will be the projectors or the clear feelers and the empaths, who can read the room. So I'm a projector, and as a projector I need to wait for the invitation. So now this was a project group which I was already participating in, and this meeting was initiated and I not necessarily had to be there. And I decided myself that I value to be there for what it could give me, also in terms of the knowledge and the wisdom that would be shared for the future of this project and the things that I am involved in. So kind of in a way invited myself. This is where I as a projector went wrong, because I was not directly invited into this meeting. I shouldn't have been there. But it brought me so much. It was amazing, even though it was hard and difficult for the body at times. I learned so much. So as a projector, I absorb the energy, what is in front of me. So that can be a person, that can be a collective group, and I kind of become that energy. So when my channel is open, and just before that meeting I was still finishing my cup of cacao, so I was fully like in heart consciousness and love, but I was also fully open. My channel was fully open, meaning for me that I can feel the nitty-gritty of it all. Which is not always nice, but this is my gift. Where it went wrong is that because I kind of invited myself, I generally have learned by now, when that's the case, the people who are sitting in the round table with me or like in front of me, doesn't matter, often are not ready to receive what I have to give in my genius, in my gifts, in my highest alignments. Because I'm there, I'm just seeing the energy. I'm witnessing the emotional body, the energetic body, the physical body. I was the only one on camera, the rest was there in person. So that was already that shouldn't have been a problem at all. But that creates a little bit of a different like engagement and interaction, of course. And I get that. But it are these small things, and for me it ended up being, how can I say this right? Like the projector in me, the human in me, didn't feel that she was honored for what I could bring to the table in those moments, because I felt initially before starting the meeting that the energy could have been shifted a little bit, and that could have been by just 1 minute of breath, by just like 1 minute of shaking. It wouldn't have to be a full practice, but it wasn't honored, it wasn't heard, it wasn't seen. It was actually made a little bit like fun of me, and there was no spaciousness. The stage was also not given to me, and that's fine. It showed me so much, and that's actually where I want to unpack these quotes in, because it doesn't necessarily matter what it meant for me. There were many lessons that I had to alchemize, but I want to share what I saw, because that's where the expansion is happening. What I saw was a beautiful space. What I saw were beautiful souls and versions of me, because each and every one on that round table was a version of me. Whether that was a past version, like a current version, a recent version, doesn't matter. They were all reflections of me. So my body felt overwhelmed. I actually switched off the camera even, and I started witnessing, and I just started observing what was happening in the field energetically. And this is where it became very interesting for me to this is where I actually am best in my genius as a projector, to just be present with my energy and witness and observe. And that's it, and bring the energy. Unless someone invites me in to share what I see and witness, of course. And this is the gift from the projector, because the manifestor generators and the generators, they are in their head often. This was a meeting which was heart-led, obviously, but very masculine. It was not intuitively led from the body. It was not intuitively led from the feminine. And there's a massive difference, for me at least, in leadership. Leading from the heart, yes. Leading from the body, no. Leading from the feminine, no. Embodied leadership, we can lead from the heart and still be anchored in very masculine structures from the mind, just working through things while the body wants to respond. The body holds the wisdom. Not only the body and the one who was holding the space and leading the meeting, but the bodies of everyone on that round table. What would have been the difference in this co-creation, which was a creative brainstorm, if the people would, instead of from the minds, would have collaborated from the body? That would have been magnificent. That would have been so incredible, powerful. That would have been from the emotional body. That would have been from deeper layers from within. That's what's making me that's lighting up my heart. But this is not what I'm seeing in the field, especially in the corporate world. And this wasn't so corporate. Again, I wouldn't be in this space if this was like super corporate and matrix. But still, this experience for me was not in how I desire to hold the space, even for a creative brainstorm. That doesn't make it wrong. It makes it less aligned for my body. So to just go back, my body went into a freeze. Now I do know how to handle that, how to walk with that, how to hold myself, what to do. But the fact that my body went into a freeze showed me as well that this is so common in the corporate space, in team meetings, and people are not even aware. People are not even acknowledging or capable to feel that, hey, I'm in a freeze, I'm blocked, I can no longer speak, I can no longer move. I want to say something, but I feel insecure. I want to say something, but actually they're not hearing me. So I also want you to ask the question, if this ever happened to you in a team meeting. Maybe you didn't go into a freeze, you went into a fight. You literally started like a fight, maybe with one of your team members or co-workers or your team lead or manager. Maybe you ran away. You literally ran out of the room. Past versions of me have had all these experiences: the freeze, the fight, and the flight. I've experienced it all in team meetings in corporate environments. Again, there's nothing wrong with any of these responses. My point is that if we would work with the energetics, we first of all would honor the space for the energetics and for the bodies. But secondly, if we would learn that everything is okay, even the freeze in such meeting is okay, even speaking when your voice is shaking is okay. But if you then know how to regulate the nervous system in the body to still speak up, that's where the magic is happening. That's where the gift is. This is where the expansion is happening. This is where we are growing, not only as individuals, but as a team. So, embodied leadership, what does that mean to you? If you hear the word embodied leadership, what does that mean in your mind? What have you make it mean in your mind? How does it look like? How does it feel? And the same for feminine leadership. What does feminine leadership mean for you? Leading from the body. So I invite you to sit with these questions, to contemplate, to journal about these questions. Whether you are like a leader in a corporate environment or one of the team members, doesn't matter. You are always a leader in terms of leading yourself through these experiences. So how are you leading yourself through these experiences being with your team? How is your manager, or how are you as the leader now creating that safe space in corporate environments? And when that safe space is created, that is within masculine structures, with the agenda or however that's going in your world, in your work. But this can be from the body, this can be intuitively, this can be from the heart. So is there spaciousness for that? So what became very, very visible for me is that there's a huge gap and lack in embodied leadership in corporate environments. And feeling safe in the body and setting the container. Because what happens, just like when the little girl went to school, you just enter the classroom and there you go, and you're like receiving and receiving, but like you just need to take it all in. It's super overwhelming. But this is on repeat in the corporate worlds because we do not take in consideration the body, the emotions, and the energy. And I hold a very strong belief and knowing that if in the corporate world we would take these 3 pillars into consideration when we are co-creating and working together, so the body, the physical body, the emotional body, and the energetic body, the world would look so differently. You would feel so differently. What could be created with your team would feel so much more grounded. The communication would be so differently. Your embodiment would feel so differently. The safety within the body, and this is the key, because it's all going back to feeling safe. To feeling safe in the body. To giving everyone the spaciousness to be with what is. And in this dynamic of this meeting that I now use as an example, there was a drastic shift half through the meeting, where at the beginning it was like what I witnessed, a little bit more like the energy was different. I don't want to go into too much depth of it, but the energy was different and it was more controlled, and it was more led from like controlling and insecurity instead of like knowing and leadership. And the second half, that changed. And I can clearly see why it changed, but that could have quickly be dissolved by some body movement, for example. Just by everyone working a little bit with the body. Then that first half could have been as open and expanded, or more open and expanded as well. So for clear feelers, for empaths, for projectors, this is where you are being requested to rise. And this is incredibly challenging. This can be very difficult. But as clear feelers, as empaths, as projectors, you do feel, you do see. Do you trust that? Can you distinguish what's from the collective, what's yours, first of all? And then, do you have the courage to step forward and start something to do with that, to start to create a different space? And maybe you're like, that's not my responsibility. That's okay. Maybe you feel like, hey, there's a lot of space for growth in my working environment. And you feel the call. Then go explore what can be your role if that's your calling. And this can look different for each and every one of you. Like, you don't need to do anything with it. The first step for each and every one who is listening to this live is to lead yourself during these moments and times where you feel in a business meeting, in a corporate environment, where you're feeling smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, not being seen, not being heard, and then completely shut down. Whether that's again freezing, running, or fighting. How do you lead yourself in those moments? What do you do? Are you equipped to then change the energy in the moment? Are you taking it with you home? And then when you're home, you start to recalibrate? Are you able to recalibrate and come back to the body and yourself immediately after the meeting? Can you take that 5-minute break and just go outside and be in nature for a couple of minutes? How are you caring for yourself? Because that's, my beautiful human, my beautiful soul, that is your first priority. To hold yourself, to lead yourself, to create that spaciousness for yourself. Because if you can lead from that space, embodied place and space, you will set the examples for others too. We lead by example, right? So if you can start communicating from that embodied place, if you can start reading the room from that embodied place and not even worry or concern about the group dynamic that much, but just about leading yourself, this is where the change is going to happen. Because this is going to ripple effect. It's going to be a ripple effect for each and every one of you in that team meeting, in that corporate environment. So to round up this conversation and this sharing, it's your little girl, that little girl in the classroom, she is still with you in this business meeting. How can you nurture her? How can you hold her hand when she is playing up? Because it's her that is shutting down. It's not the adult version of you. It's that little girl in you that requires healing and nurturing and care. How are you holding her? Bring it back to you. Bring it back to the body. And be courageous. If you feel in a meeting, like I did, I switched off my camera. What I started doing was just simply movements. That's how I shift. If that for you means like, okay, I need to tap now, start tapping. What's holding you back? Because it's weird, because no one is doing it, but you do know, right? You do know by now how to regulate your nervous system. And if you don't, I invite you in my membership, Multidimensional. And if you're Dutch, I invite you in my 3 months self-healing and embodiment journey, Reclamation. This is actually the dive dive, but it's facilitated in Dutch. For you to lead yourself through these spaces and places and uncomfortable, sometimes situations. And to not judge. This was the most beautiful gift for me personally of it all. Past versions would have judged this whole creation. And now I was able to just witness, lean back, witness, see, feel, witness, observe. That's it. I didn't say a thing. I was not even included at the end of the meeting. Not even like, oh, Nish, you don't need to be there, like next. Not even that. It was just like I was not there. I was literally not there. So, again, I was online. The rest of the people were in person. So there are some like things playing here, like with this container too, and I get that. But it's it's a circle. It's a circle, it's a circle, it's a circle. And where it directed myself to, and this is what I want to end this conversation with, is when we feel all those feelings surfacing in those moments, which parts are you not seeing in yourself? What is it that you cannot stand for in those moments? Because if you do not feel seen or not feel safe to speak up or to be present even, no one around you can shift that. They will respond to your energetic blueprint in that moment, to your frequency embodiment. So how can you shift that? What are you not seeing in yourself that moment in time? That's where the healing is directing you. That's where the healing is taking place. If you go into that deeper depth within yourself, most likely going back to that little girl. What is she needing? How can you nurture her? How can you care for her? How can you then, as the adult version of yourself, lead yourself through the experience? All in all, this was a beautiful experience. I learned a lot from it. So there is no, again, there's no judgments, whereas past versions would have felt judgments. It was just one of the creations where I was not I was just learning. And that was it. I was learning. I was not even involved in what was happening. I was witnessing, and because of that, just seeing so much and learning so much. And sometimes that's exactly what we need. That's exactly why we had to be present there, just energetically, for whatever also is playing out in all these other individuals, and then take it back and bring it back to you. Because it's not about the other. Even though these other people are all versions of you, I felt so much love, so much compassion, so much it was just so beautiful to also see my own growth, to also see where there were unintegrated shadow aspects of myself surfacing in those moments. And to then bring it home, to then be okay, I need to be raw and real. This is one of the steps of the Daya method, which I will be teaching in Reclamation. Being raw and real. And this is how I uncovered more and more and more, which is expanding me and my being, but also expanding eventually this whole collective by just holding it and being present. That's all that we want. Being present with yourself and your body and the energetics. That was my sharing. I'm so happy that I eventually went live, because I started this conversation, the share, I tried to share this in stories, and that would have been reacting, that would have not been creating, that would have not been responding. And there are so many, you're welcome, there are so many valuable lessons to be still learned in the corporate worlds. And in my world, I have a lot of people that are empaths, that are clear feelers, and their channels, the longer you are in my world, the more open your channels will become. That's just how it works. So you need to start very playfully, start to play with these energetics, whether that's at home or also at work. Because at the end of the day, most of you are still being at work so many hours of the week. So create these containers there too. It's gonna change your life. It's gonna change everything.